Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm really excited to see how the community comes together to create something new and powerful out of all the challenges we're facing today. We're able to bring Denver Startup Week to this community thanks to our sponsors. Join me in thanking our 2020 Denver Startup Week sponsors, our title sponsors, Downtown Denver Partnership, JP Morgan Chase, Prologis, and Xero. Our track sponsors who have made all the great content you're hearing today possible: Battery 621 and the Public Works, Capital One Cafe, Colorado Lending Source, Friday Health, Quizlet, Exactly, Zayo, and Zestful. Our headline event sponsors are bringing the excitement this week. Thank you to Wix, Kenzen, MAPR Agency, Obsidian HR, Kickstart Fund, Promontory Mortgage, Molson Coors, and Comcast. Finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors listed on the screen. Please say thank you to these companies as you enjoy our virtual Denver Startup Week, and don't forget to use hashtag DenStartupWeek to share your experience and moments of inspiration on social media.
Alrighty, hi everybody. Welcome to Denver Startup Week. It's Thursday, it's day 4. We're still doing it. We still have energy. We're still ready to rock. My name is Ryan Margolis. I'm one of the co-chairs of the product track, and I'm a member of the Denver Startup Week organizing committee. Before we get started, I just want to shout out everybody for attending this. This is the first ever virtual Denver Startup Week. Pretty amazing to kind of put it all together in the midst of everything happening in the world right now. So thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for interacting, all of the above. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a place where attendees can connect, learn, and grow, regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, sexual orientation, or the combination of any of those. There is something for everyone at Denver Startup Week. Thank you for joining us. And thank you again to our sponsors. They're the reason that this is free. Denver Startup Week is the largest free startup-focused event in the world. How cool is that? And it's all because we have great sponsorships and attendees like you that engage, that are part of the community. So thank you. Got Jess ready to rock right now. We'll be focusing today in this session on getting into product without a product title. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Jess. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us, and you're up.
Great, thanks, Ryan.
Of course.
Hi, everyone. Happy Startup Week. I can't believe we're on day 4 of Startup Week already. It's so crazy. And I was thinking about all of the years I've participated in Denver Startup Week, and I'm realizing that I miss my favorite part, which is seeing everybody in person and connecting afterwards and discussing your questions and challenges after the fact. So I'm going to go ahead and start by saying hi if I know you. If I don't know you, please connect with me. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll share my LinkedIn link at the end as well, but hopefully you can find me just Sherlock. And yeah, I hope to stay connected with all of you here. And I know many of you are interested in getting into product. I want to tell you a little bit about me. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. I want to tell you a little bit about me to start with, and then I'll be able to give you a little bit of advice on how to get into product without the product title. So with that, let's get started. So my name's Jess. I have spent all of my career in B2B. So B2B software development, meaning business to business, as opposed to business to consumer. So business to consumer would be, for example, your Facebooks and your Instagrams of the world. And in my world of B2B, I am used to building and selling products to businesses. So that creates some differences in your go-to-market strategy, your pricing, your contracts, all that good stuff. So I guess just recognize today that a lot of my experience comes from that area. So as I'm saying examples and whatnot, it may sound a little bit different than consumer experiences you've heard of, but yeah, lots of experience in B2B. So right now I am actually co-founder and CPO at Join Carousel. So Carousel is an ed tech product. We are looking to deliver social emotional learning content via our platform. So enabling all social emotional learning content creators to deliver their content digitally. So for those of you with kids or nieces or nephews, you may be familiar with this sort of content. It might be called character development content, but right now it's usually done in workbooks and worksheets. So Carousel is looking to deliver that digitally, especially now in this time of COVID. So looking forward to getting that to market here in the near term. I am also a product coach and consultant. So I work with individual product managers and I help them navigate their careers or kick off their careers into product. I also work with startups. So I like working with early stage seed to kind of Series A startups, helping them determine the best way to organize for product development. So if I can be of assistance to you in either of those realms, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's what I like to do on the side, is kind of pay it forward and help folks out with their organizations and careers. For the last few years, I've also been the lead product management instructor at General Assembly Denver. So if you've taken a class with me, hi. If you haven't, I'll be teaching another 10-week course starting in mid-October. So check out the General Assembly website, and I hope to see you in a class. But that's a great opportunity for me to kind of get a feel for what it's like for people coming into product from other areas. And of course, trying to kick off their product management careers. And so I've got lots of thoughts to share, given what I've seen my students go through. And also plug for any women out there, if you're trying to get into product or you're in product and you're not a part of women in product, please join. It's not exclusive to women. It's just for, it's another way to network and get familiar with what's going on in the Denver Boulder area as it pertains to product. So I'm a co-chapter lead, and we'd be happy to see you in any of our upcoming networking events. And finally, most recently, you might know me from Go Spot Check. So I was with Go Spot Check until the end of 2018. I was there when we closed our Series A and Series B. So saw tremendous growth in our product organization from just, me as product management alongside one of our founders, all the way up to having, I think 8 or 9 agile teams, full-fledged product management organization and product design organization. So lots of my experience and why I believe I'm armed to give you this, this knowledge is I've seen product management careers from all angles. I've been the person being hired, but I've also been in a position to hire. And I've also been coaching and consulting people at all phases of product management. So I'm hoping that what I put together today is going to be useful for you to kind of answer that inevitable question of, how do I get into product? So with that, this is the single biggest question that I get. I get it from folks all the time, whether I'm on a panel, I'm teaching a course through General Assembly, or I let people know I'm hiring and folks are interested in a role, but they don't feel like they're qualified. So if you've had career experience, you've probably noticed that you have what seem to be some transferable skills into product management. And so for many of the people that I work with, they have skills of some kind. They've been working professionally for some amount of time. And the question is, how do I get into product management if I haven't had that title before? And you might be wondering, well, why do people think they need to have the title? Well, I did some looking at some real life associate product manager job descriptions. These are all in the last week or so. Oh, I noticed someone's not seeing the slides. Hang on one second. Here we go. Let me know in the chat if you're seeing slides now. It should be resolved. Great, thank you, folks. All right, yay for chat. Okay, so I did some looking through some real life associate PM job descriptions, and over and over and over again, I saw, 1 to 3 years of experience required. And I'd love to hear from you in the chat if this is what you've seen as well. But you might think that associate product management jobs are the place to get in, right? We always hear, oh, folks should apply to APM programs through Facebook or Google. Folks should just go look at an associate PM job description. That's your way into a company. And I hear folks and I see folks all the time saying, hey, I'm out there looking, and most every job I see, it's an associate PM job. It will say entry level, but I continue to see that it requires this experience. What does that mean? How do I get that experience? So what I want to do is start by saying, I have a controversial opinion on this. I would love to see some debate and discussion in the chat on this topic. And my opinion on this matter is that there's a bit of a myth. I think what's happened is that the product manager role has been sold as an entry-level tech job. And I think what I'd like to show you today is that product management, for a number of reasons, is not an entry-level tech job, but it can be a destination once you get some tech experience. But again, what does that mean? Well, we're going to talk about that today, what all of those skills are, and you're even going to get a chance to score yourself and figure out where you land in your current skill sets. And I'll give you some advice on what to do next based on where your skills are. So if you don't already have a pen and paper, grab one, because I think you'll want to jot down some things to figure out what your best next steps are. Okay, so let's start with why. Why is it that I believe that product management is not an entry-level tech job? Well, there's two main reasons, and I want to start with the first. The role of a product manager is a high impact role, and it's relatively risky hire for a company. Okay, let's start with high impact. Why is it high impact? Well, product managers are strategically thinking about the direction of the product. And oftentimes in software, the product is the business, right? The product is the heartbeat of the business. So I think it's important to ground ourselves first by saying, product management is a crucial role in a software organization, because that person is going to be making decisions on what we're going to be working on in the product, what features we may or may not be building out, the priority of those features, of course, working alongside leadership and other stakeholders. But this individual is, not just making strategic high impact decisions. This person is also in charge of deciding how extremely expensive resources on the team are spending their time. So product managers are not just interacting with stakeholders from all over the organization. They're deciding the priority and backlog and work to-dos for developers who are, can be extremely expensive. Back of the napkin math, your average developer might be making 100,000 a year. And if a backlog is being run, for 5 to 10 engineers, that's a lot of, value that the organization is putting on those resources. And so managing what those folks is doing is a very high impact, high risk area. And the final reason I believe it to be a relatively risky hire is that product touches and interacts with all parts of the organization. So even a product manager who is extremely experienced and has been extremely successful in their roles, you still need to make sure that you get product managers into place who have good chemistry with the rest of your stakeholders, who are good communicators, who have the ability to be transparent and motivating and provide leadership from a product standpoint. And so those are, many of the reasons why, one of the first reasons why I believe that the role of the product manager is not that entry-level tech job. The second, and we know this already, but I want to unpack this today, is that the role is complex and it requires a range of skills. Product management is by definition a generalist role. It's not a trade in the same way as others where you can get trained on a certain set of software programs and suddenly be capable of doing the job. Product managers pull from a number of buckets to get their day-to-day job done. Effective communication is a part of it. Leadership is another part of it. Hard skills related to road mapping, backlog management, soft skills, the list goes on and on. So I want to unpack this today around what exactly those skills are, give you a chance to reflect on what skills you might already have, and then we'll talk about paths forward to help you get into it. Okay. Would love to hear in the chat if you've seen this before. Gosh, I hope you have if you're here. But the skills necessary for a product manager fall into kind of three major categories. And product management, the discipline, kind of sits at the center point of tension in these three areas. So again, product is a generalist role. There is not one single thing that product needs to accomplish. And even the most junior PM must have at least some basic skills in all of these areas to be effective. And we know that, but again, the question becomes, what are those skills? So if we know we want a balanced set of skills that falls right at the middle of this, let's start by digging into these. So number one, business acumen. You must be able to communicate and collaborate effectively with your stakeholders. And these are business stakeholders, right? Sales, marketing, other parts of the organization. And that's because you need to understand what the business is trying to accomplish and how you can plan effectively with those stakeholders to deliver those desired results to the business. So understanding profit and loss, understanding whether the organization is in a stage of growth or margin creation. Those are all elements that are necessary to being effective in this role. Okay, second, let's talk about user experience, UX, customer. There's an entire set of skills related to making sure that you deeply understand your customer, your market, the domain. And of course, you hopefully have some product designers on your team. If you don't, you might need to brush up on some of the hard skills of UX, but you need to be able to collaborate with your design team so that you can deliver those effective solutions to your customer problems that are hopefully also delightful. And finally, tech skills. So what does that mean? Some folks say, oh, you need engineering skills, you need tech skills. Well, it's not about becoming an engineer. And in fact, the 2020 Colorado product salary survey, shout out to that team, found that only some of the folks in Colorado have the ability to code. There was another study done by, I believe it was AHA, that found 5% of product managers have the ability to code. So the goal in tech skills is not necessarily that you have a computer science background or that you be able to code, but that you be able to collaborate with a team of engineers effectively, because you need to be able to define what it is that needs to be built. Of course, work through your software development processes, which might be sprint or which might be agile or scrum processes, in order to actually deliver that feature set to your customers. So again, hopefully this is not brand new to all of us, but what I want to do now is actually unpack some of these skills, unpack some of the things that product managers are doing in these areas. And as I'm going through this list, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to identify, even if you are in a different role right now. Maybe you're in a tech company, maybe you're a customer success person or a support person, or maybe you don't even work in tech at all just yet, but you want to. I want you to reflect on the things that I'm going to describe in these different skill areas and think about whether these are things you've actually done in your career, but you never thought of them as being transferable into product. So the first one, arguably super important. We know product managers are setting strategy, they're solving customer problems. So having a strategic problem-solving mindset is critical. And again, as I go through these, I want you to reflect on which of these you might have or skills you might have used in the past, and you're going to be giving yourself a score. Okay, cross-functional team leadership. Product managers are at the hub of the organization. So you might go through an entire day and talk to every department. You might talk to sales in the morning, and then customer success or support midday. And then of course, work with your engineering team to, work through QAing a feature you're about to release. So being able to, work cross-functionally and also manage teams or lead teams that are cross-functional in nature is a tremendous skill. Managing stakeholders, vendors, and partners, right? Again, this is a skill you might have had in a different role. So have you ever been in a situation where you had to manage that relationship or manage deliverables that were coming from your internal stakeholders, maybe an outside vendor of some kind or contractor, or other types of partners? Maybe you've been in a position where you needed to make build, buy, or partner decisions, where your organization needed some sort of software functionality and you were brought in to determine whether we should build that from scratch or whether we should maybe buy a software solution for that. For those of you who have an MBA or who have spent any time starting a business, maybe you have defined your markets, sized your markets, done market segmentation. Those are all skill sets that are valuable for product managers. Product profitability, tracking a profit and loss statement, financials on your product. Have you been in a position where that was something you had to do? Positioning or go-to-market. So even if you were working on some sort of physical product, have you ever been in a situation where you needed to communicate to the market what this product is and is not, and determine how you actually get it out to customers? Maybe you've been in a position where you are influencing product pricing or product packaging. How do we actually price this? What is the price point? How do we package these feature sets? Or maybe you've been providing product training or demos. And finally, project management, communication. Certainly, if you have professional experience, this has come up. Have you tracked action items, put together a project schedule? All of that counts. So I want to pause for just a moment. I want you to score your skills. Take a look at this list, reflect on your current to-date career experience. What would you score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? Feel free to share your score in the chat if you'd like. But on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at with your business skills? Maybe you're a 1 if this is brand new to you. You haven't done any of these things. Maybe you're somewhere in the middle. You've done some of these things. Or maybe you're a 10. You can do any or all of these things right now. Awesome. I see some scores coming in. It looks like many of you are high, but we've got some folks on the lower end too, and that's fine. Great. Okay. So jot your score down, hold on to it, and we will come back to that in just a moment. Let's look at UX skills. So this was the customer area. This is, are we sure that we're building the most desirable, useful, delightful experience for our customers? And again, I want you to reflect on your career experience to date. Don't think about just software or product experience. Think about whether you've been in a position where these sorts of activities were your responsibility. Okay, let's start with research, qualitative research. So things like customer interviews, customer conversations, any situation where you're researching subjective data. Have you ever done that? Or maybe quantitative research. Have you been in a position where you were sending out customer surveys, maybe tracking Net Promoter Score, customer satisfaction? Maybe going out and researching third-party research studies to learn about your market or industry, maybe market trends. Have you been in a position where you've done either of these types of research? And that research might have been to understand market problems. If so, give yourself an extra point or two. Do you have deep knowledge of a particular domain or industry? Don't take this for granted. So nowadays, many of the most successful startups or startups right now that are getting lots of funding are solving problems in complex areas. So they're solving problems in industries that have yet to be touched by tech. I'm talking about healthcare. I'm talking about ed tech. I'm talking about government, mortgage, all of these areas that require deep knowledge of the domain, the industry, the compliance issues, regulation issues. So if you currently work in an organization, maybe you're a loan officer at a mortgage company, maybe you are in the medical industry. If you have deep knowledge of a domain or industry, that can be so valuable in your move into product that if you were working on a product that was delivering solutions to that domain or industry, you have a leg up on someone like me because I don't have that experience. You might be performing competitive analysis. So have you ever done that in the past? Have you ever gone out and researched competitors, maybe compared price points, compared feature sets? Anything like that counts. Defining user personas, or maybe even using user personas. Have you been in an organization that had user personas where you used them in your day-to-day job, or maybe helped refine them? What about jobs to be done? This is a new way of thinking about what our customer problems are, but maybe you've been involved in defining jobs to be done. That counts here. A/B testing, for those of you who have a background in marketing, you should know what that is, right? We're testing options of designs against one another to see which performs better. Maybe you have that experience. Maybe you've created sketches or wireframes or prototypes of some kind in the past. That counts. And finally, maybe you've done some sort of basic usability testing where you put software solutions in front of a customer to see how well they can use it. Okay, so again, I want you to take a moment, score your skills. Look at this list, reflect on your career experience to date. Where are you? So again, a 1 if you've never done any of this, somewhere in the middle if you've done some. And finally, a 10 if you think you've done all of it and you could nail it in a product job. Let's see those scores. Ooh, folks are feeling good here. Surge is at 27. Awesome. All right. This is great. This is great. Awesome. Okay. So let's look at our final category of skills. Still see scores coming in. This is awesome. Share yours. I love to see it. Okay. Tech skills. This is often the scariest area, right? We hear that, oh, do product managers need to be able to code? Do product managers, need to have a computer science degree? These are all questions that come up. And so I want to give you some clarity on what it means to have tech skills. And again, as we're looking through this list, reflect on your current experience to date, and let's see where you land. So have you ever managed agile software development or participated in agile ceremonies? I'm talking about stand-ups, retros, groomings, planning. Those things all count as tech skills. So can you write user stories, requirements? Can you manage a backlog? Those are areas that can count as well as technical skills. Maybe you've defined feature acceptance criteria. So maybe for those of you who work at a tech company now, maybe you work on the commercial side of the business, but you help product determine what done would be on a feature. That is experience you can count here. Similar to domain knowledge in the UX section of skills, consider whether you have deep knowledge in a particular tech area. So for those of you who come from an engineering background, or maybe some sort of technical support background, if you have deep knowledge in a particular tech area, that can also be super valuable to an organization who's looking to hire a product manager. So do you know a lot about machine learning or artificial intelligence, blockchain, cloud, mobile, data? All of those deep knowledge areas can be very valuable and can make you an appealing candidate for a product job. Maybe you have experience with product analytics. Google Analytics, Hotjar, Mixpanel, Pendo, the list goes on and on. Maybe you've only ever been a consumer of that, but that experience can count here. Have you ever assessed technology solutions? Maybe you were assessing different software vendors to determine whether or not they would be a good fit to solve your problem. That can help. Maybe you have data analytics experience, whether that is a formal query language like SQL, or maybe it's just Excel. Are you an Excel ninja where you can create pivot tables and all that good stuff? That's great experience and shows that you have data literacy. And maybe you've just created visualizations with tools like Tableau. Count that. All of that can help you in a product management role. Maybe you've been a part of creating and maintaining a roadmap. Count that here as well. And finally, maybe your tech skills are just that you're kind of a support whiz. When people have questions about a product, you can kind of help figure out what's going on. So again, take a moment, score yourself, share it in our chat so I can see where you're at. How do you stack up in terms of tech skills? Okay, and I'm not surprised here. So I see we've got lots of folks high, but a fair amount of folks coming in much lower. And don't worry, this is common. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Let's get your scores together and then we'll talk about what to do with these scores. So for each of these areas, I want you to identify what you came up with. What was your score out of 10 and give that a percentage, right? So our goal, of course, is to get to 100% in all of these categories. But let's start with business skills. So jot down where you were at for business skills, where you were at for UX skills, and where you were at for tech skills. I'll give you just a moment. Jot down your score for each of these. And our goal would eventually be to get all of these to 100%. Okay, we got it? Okay, I wish I could see all of your lovely faces, but I'm gonna assume we got it. All right, so you're like, great, Jess, now I have the score. Can you tell me what to do, please? Yes, I can, I would love to. Let's start by looking at business skills. For most people who have any sort of previous professional experience, these skills tend to be the strongest. So time and time again, when I'm talking to folks who are trying to get into product, business skills aren't usually the issue. And I saw a lot of high scores coming through. But for those of you who might have scored a little lower if you didn't share your skills, I want to give you some tips on how to build your skills in this area. So let's talk about it. All of the stats I'm going to share came from the 2020 Colorado Product Salary Survey. So these are, it was a survey of a few hundred Colorado product managers. And so just want you to know that that's where these stats come from. But 58% of participants in that study said that the pragmatic product certification, they found it either valuable or extremely valuable. So I'd love to hear in the chat if any of you have heard of this certification program, if you've taken it. Of course, share your experience if you'd like. I'm sure other panelists would love to hear it. But the pragmatic marketing certification, it used to be called pragmatic marketing. I think it's now pragmatic product. But anyways, the pragmatic certification goes through a lot of the business skills required for product management. And they have a lot of processes and templates that they can arm you with to do things like market sizing and market segmentation and all that good stuff. And so if you don't want to go so far as to get an MBA, but you want something a little bit more than just a PM boot camp or course, the pragmatic certification can be one direction to go. A lot of folks ask me if they should get an MBA. I don't personally have one. I think there is absolutely value in an MBA. It doesn't necessarily correlate here in Colorado to higher salaries, but it absolutely is a great way to build your business skills. So if you're into degrees and schooling, this may be a good direction for you. But only 18% of the PMs in the Colorado Product Survey have one. So take that for what it's worth. If you have a job right now, one of the things I like to direct people to do is talk to their boss or maybe a mentor at their current organization and try to get visibility into the business side of the business. Can you get your hands on the profit and loss statement? Can you talk to your boss about why we're tackling certain initiatives and how that might impact the business? Learning about business fundamentals in the context of a company you work in can be much easier to build those skills because you can immediately understand the context. And so instead of kind of focusing just on the theory of these things, you can actually start to understand the business theory, but in practical application at a real organization that you understand. So maybe you have a relationship with your boss, your mentor, or any peer on your team who can give you visibility into the inner workings of your current organization that could help you just kind of have a little bit more context on where your skills might be lacking. And finally, it's startup week, so I felt like this is worth saying. Try starting a business. Find a friend who's starting a business. What a fantastic way to learn about how a business works and how decisions are made inside of a business. But like I said, often business skills is not the biggest gap area for people. So I want to spend some time talking about UX skills and finally tech skills. So let's move into UX. What I find in this category of skills is that many people have actually had this experience without realizing they had it. And oftentimes, if people have worked with customers or have been in an organization that has customers, maybe you're a customer success person at a tech startup, or maybe you're an account manager somewhere. A lot of times folks go, all these years I was doing customer research, I guess I didn't realize it. So in this area, there are quite a few hard skills that are easy to pick up. So That might be learning to sketch, learning to wireframe, working with prototyping tools. All of those types of skills are things that you can build by taking a class or a course. I personally, I work for General Assembly, so I would point you in that direction 100%. We offer, Saturday boot camps that are, less than $200, or you can go so far as to take a course if it's something you're really interested in. But there are lots and lots of online programs for building your UX and research skills. So this is an area where it's a little bit more straightforward to get those skill sets. And once you have them, don't hesitate to try to do some research with current customers. And it could just lead to you making an attempt to ask better questions. So for those of you who are in account management or sales or customer success, a lot of UX is asking questions that will help you get to the root of problems. And so even learning those skills in your position can help you have better customer interactions today, regardless of where you might end up with product in the future. And finally, maybe you work at an organization that has product people or has designers. Then go connect with those folks. I guarantee you they're busy, and I guarantee that if you offer to help in some small way, they will take you up on it. So here are some tips. Offer to help by taking notes at the next customer interview. It's a real pain to go conduct a usability test or a customer interview and to try to facilitate that while also taking notes. So most PMs or designers would be thrilled if you would offer to go and take notes for them. And plus, it'll let you see a real life customer research interview. Another tip is just offering to help with testing. See what help they might like on, reviewing designs or helping to facilitate customer tests. So chat with those folks, find out what they're busy with, and offer to just be an extra set of hands. That can be a great way to get some experience. And I'd love to hear what's coming to mind for you all. So if you have ideas that this is generating for you as I'm talking through these, please share them in the chat. That might inspire other folks with what they could do to build their skills in these areas. Okay, and finally, tech skills. Most of the time, with the exception of, when I'm talking to folks who have been in engineering and are trying to make the move into product, most of the time, this is the area where people have the most work to do. And I want to give you some practices that can help you build these skills and confidence, because this is an area where even once folks build technical skills, there can be a sense of imposter syndrome of, well, I'm not an engineer, so what do I really know? And so I want to give you some tips here on how you can build those tech skills. And again, if ideas are coming to mind for you, please share them in the chat. I'd love to see what you think you might do to build some skills. Okay, so first things first, most products nowadays are going to benefit from having a product is a really great tool to help you build that data fluency so that you can understand how data models work. You can make simple queries of that data. And even if you don't become a SQL expert, it will help you ask better questions of your data if you understand how data is structured. Someone asked me to explain the significance. I'm going to do that now. So the 60, 40, 20, they were just placeholders to kind of illustrate where many folks land. So not scientific by any stretch, but most often when I ask people to do this exercise, this is where I see people land. You're welcome, Luke. Okay, the other tech skill you may want to consider is a CSPO certification. This is a Certified Scrum Master Product Owner, Certified Scrum Product Owner certification. This is offered by Scrum Alliance. Give it a quick Google, you'll find it. 47% of the product managers in the Colorado Product Salary Survey said that this is a valuable certification or an extremely valuable certification. Again, I don't personally have this one, but it doesn't hurt. I learned Agile on the job, I learned Scrum on the job, but this is a great way to learn those Scrum and Agile practices in a more intentional way. And again, being startup week, try to build something. Partner up with a developer, partner up with a designer. Just try to build something. You will learn so much in that process that will help you in a job. And even if it's just a side project, I promise you that that experience will give you confidence to figure out what else you need to learn and to also share that experience with someone you might be interviewing with. And it just shows good, momentum. And finally, if you have devs at the organization that you work at, talk to them, ask them questions, ask them to explain the tech stack to you, ask them how your current product works, right? Just get curious. This is an area where there is so much to learn, that Google is going to be your friend, and people that you know that develop are going to be your friend to help you build these skills. Now, what I want to point out is that our goal for getting into product is that you have the fundamental skills in all three areas. And so it's not about having strength in just one. And in fact, most of the time when I speak with people, they have strengths in one or maybe two. And the question is less about how I build all the skills, and it's more about how do I build the skills where I have those gaps. So I hope you found the previous content interesting. And I want to give you some kind of tactical steps now, in addition to the skill building, to tell you how to get into product, and then we'll have time for some Q&A. So many of you were really high in these categories. So if you are a 7 or more in all of these categories, I see no reason why you shouldn't be applying for associate PM roles or maybe PM roles. Maybe you already have the job. So if that's you, let me know in the chat. I'm curious if you are a 7+ in all. But if you are, go get it. Get your referrals, meet people, apply for product roles. I see no reason why you shouldn't. If you are maybe halfway there in 1 or 2 of the categories, awesome. Good for you. You've got strong skills, but you're in that position where you need to build skills in other areas. So your job is to focus on getting near product, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So if you are 5 or more in 1 or 2 of the categories, you've got to focus on getting near product. Now, for those of you who are really low in all of these categories, maybe you're somewhere between a 1 and a 3 across the board. Awesome. You're just starting the journey. And to be honest with you, most any professional experience is going to help you start. Because in most professional settings, you will get exposure to business skills, design skills, etc. So take a moment. Can you please enter into the chat? Where are you? Where are you in this? I'd love to hear. And I see a couple of folks responding. Brennan, high five. I'd love to hear what's going on in your search for a job. Okay, we've got some folks who are 5+ in some. Awesome, awesome. Cool, Tamara, nice work taking a SQL class. How cool, how cool. And Matt, that's a great point. Yeah, you think you're a 7+, but maybe you're not. So that's great. Okay, so with that, for those of you who are in the 5+, which is what I see a lot. I see a lot of folks who have some strong skills, but they need to develop their skills in other areas. What does this mean, getting near product? Well, let me tell you. I want you to pivot from a position of strength. So shout out to Brandon K if you're out there for this phrase. But I want you to pivot from a position of strength. So what does that mean? I want you to focus not on getting the product job. I want you to focus on getting into tech first. And so if you're not familiar with some of these roles, I want you to spend some time on, you can go to Built-in Colorado, even LinkedIn, review job descriptions in these different areas. So for example, if you have really strong business skills, try to get into a tech organization that's looking for customer success people, or maybe sales or partnerships people, maybe even product marketing if you've got some marketing background, or operations if you've got strong project management skills or data skills. And what you can do with this is get close to product, because you'll be in a product organization where you can see those product ceremonies, see how products developed, and start to understand the inner workings of product. So if your skills are in UX, maybe it's product design or research. If your skills are more in tech, maybe it's project management, customer support, or QA. By doing that, you can get close to product. And I've seen this happen time and time and time and time again, where being able to see product at work is the thing that helps it click for people. So this is where you can build relationships with product, express interest in product, shadow or offer to assist those folks. And guess what? A growing company often means a growing product team. And as someone who's hired product managers in the past, I much prefer to hire product people from within the organization, even if they're not product people, but they know our company, they know our stakeholders, they know our domain, they know our customers. All of that is, something I can't find from a new person off the street. So get into tech first, get close to product, and then get into product. Many PMs will tell you, and I'd love to hear from anybody in the audience who is this person, but many PMs end up getting the PM role because they're in the right place at the right time. A PM role opens up, they happen to be the person who knows the product the best, and they get moved into a product management role instead of the organization going out and interviewing for this. Or if that doesn't happen, you've at least gained the experience and skills and connections that will arm you to apply for a product role at a different company. And most likely your first role will be an associate PM role. So it's less about getting into product right away, and it's more about saying, can you get into tech, get close to product, and then get into product? Now, before we go to Q&A, there are always exceptions. And I'm sure many of you out there are thinking about this. So exception number 1, you have strong domain knowledge. So if you have significant domain knowledge, but limited tech skills, a company may be excited about that, and they might take a shot on you. So sorry, folks, a little technical glitch. So strong domain knowledge is going to allow you to get into an organization that can benefit from the fact that you know the customers, you know the domain, you know the inner workings of regulation in that industry. So again, if you've got a job in healthcare, education, government, finance, don't discount those domain skills that you have, because someone like me, I'm a very experienced product manager, but I don't have that domain knowledge. And that will make you a very appealing candidate to an employer. The next item is maybe you have a connection, right? The world is small. There are lots and lots of startups, and many, many tech jobs are filled by referrals. I think one of the last stats I saw was something like over 60 or 70% of jobs are filled by referrals. How many of you out there have gotten a job by a referral? Maybe you didn't even interview. So who in your network might be able to connect you? This is one situation where there might be an exception. And finally, I have had folks take my classes and surprise me by getting an associate PM job. I've had a couple students in the last couple of classes I've taught where I can't put my finger on it, but it was some combination of luck, timing, or charisma. And it just happened. They met the right person at the right time. Maybe they had that strong domain knowledge or had a connection. But the point is, there are always exceptions. But with a little bit of preparation and knowledge about what you're getting into, I hope that you can use what we talked about today to have a little bit more confidence going after your dream job in tech. So with that, I'd love to open it up to questions. I see many of you have put questions in the Q&A already. We've got about 10 minutes for this. So let me take a look at these questions. And in the meantime, if I don't get to your question or you want to connect, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'd be happy to continue the conversation. So let's do questions first. All right, we have a question from Chris. Chris asks, in my research process, I found a lot of emphasis on PMP certification. Do people in product find this valuable? Many product managers say those skills are vital, but they don't want to be equated with project managers. So great question, Chris. I hear this one a lot. So for those of you who don't know, PMP certification is a project management certification. Now, this has nothing to do with product, except for the fact that product does have to execute. So PMP certification can sometimes be a requirement in product roles. It's not as often that I see it anymore. My personal belief is that it is not a deal breaker at all. And in fact, project management certification can sometimes be seen as a negative unless you have strong product experience. So PMP certification is a way of getting certified in specific project management practices, and is something that can help you execute, absolutely. But execution is just one part of the job as a product manager. So not completely necessary, but if the companies that you are interested in are requiring it, then it may be something worth pursuing. But I have personally not seen that as a deal breaker, at least not in the startup world. Okay, Christine asked a question as well, and please do put questions into the Q&A if you have them. So Christine asks, for the Scrum Master, what about the certified Scrum Master? What's the difference between CSM and CSMPO? Great question. If you look at the 2020 Colorado Product Salary Survey, the results were pretty clear. Across the board, folks said that the Scrum Master certification was much less valuable than the CSPO certification. The reason for that is that a certified Scrum Master, again, is not a product certification. So the certified Scrum Master certifications are to enable someone to run effective Scrum organizations. So in a Scrum Master certification, you're going to learn about proper implementation of Agile. And you will learn almost nothing about product strategy, product prioritization, market sizing, all of those sorts of things. The CSPO certification is a nice combination of the two. So in the CSPO certification, you will get, I like to describe it as sort of Scrum training for the product manager. So the Scrum Master certification is kind of how to become a person who can lead an organization to successful Agile processes. And CSPO is how can I, as a PM, effectively build product inside of a Scrum organization. So I would strongly recommend the CSPO certification as opposed to the CSM. Great question, Christine. Thank you, thank you. All right, we have a question from, oh, great. What would you recommend if your transferable skills are really high in PM and UX, but not at all in tech and likely never will be? Okay, great question. In this situation, there's a couple things I would recommend. So number one, I would definitely recommend that you avoid technical product manager roles. So, for local organizations like, Twilio or GitLab, these are products that are being built for developers, as opposed to products like Havenly or Guild, where your end user is a real person, not a developer. So the first thing I would say is definitely don't go after any technical PM roles because you will notice that that's a gap. The second thing I would recommend is to consider organizations that have actually split their product responsibilities on sort of a strategic and tactical level. Thanks for the comment, Luke. You're right. They are real people too, maybe. So if you are really high in PM and UX, don't go after those technical PM roles and consider organizations that split their product responsibilities by strategy and tactical. I know Workday at one point was experimenting with this, where they had sort of an external facing PM that was doing more like strategy and road mapping, and more of an internal PM, or what we would call a PO, product owner role, that was doing more of the backlogging. So that's something you could consider if you don't expect your skills to grow in tech ever. All right, Josh, what functions are typically closer to product in most companies, in which case making that pivot is easier? Great question. In general, the roles that I would highlight would be product marketing for sure, or customer success and maybe QA. Those are some of the areas where I've seen people make that transition, and in customer success, account management, I'm kind of grouping those together. But time and time again, those are the areas where I see people making a successful pivot. So some sort of customer facing role like customer success, where customer success folks have been working alongside product to set requirements and priorities, or the kind of QA or support roles that are a little bit more technical in nature. Great question, Josh. Thank you. Aaron, you're welcome. I'm so glad you found it valuable. Matt, I'm sure we can make that happen. I will probably, I'll share my slides on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll make sure I get those to you in some way. Thanks, Matt. Oh, we've got a lot of questions. Awesome. So what role, Tamara asked, what role does a product owner play? Is that a transition to a PM? I'll start there. So great question. Product owner, by definition, in a Scrum organization is interchangeable with PM. So product owner is simply a different phrase for a product manager in a Scrum organization. However, there are some organizations that actually have 2 product people assigned to an Agile team, where you might have a product owner, AKA a business analyst or a junior product manager, who's working alongside a product manager. So in those cases, that can be a transition into product manager, where you move from being sort of that tactical backlog manager into being a more strategic product manager. I have seen that transition happen. At organizations that think of their product owners as that more of a business analyst, it might not be as straightforward. But in general, I would say, yeah, take a look at those job descriptions. Those may be something that you feel more comfortable getting into, but recognize that if it's truly a product owner role, they will expect you to be very skilled in Scrum practices, because you will be running those Scrum ceremonies for a team. All right, getting into software in a customer success role, but they want junior candidates. I can't speak to that as much. I see a range of customer success roles available here in the Denver area and in other areas where I have clients who are actively in a job search now. So can't really speak much to that, but if you want to connect with me, Tamara, on LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect you with some of my CS friends that might be able to better answer that question. All right, let's see if we can get to the last 2 here. Josh, do product analysts, product data analysts tend to get promoted to PMs if they show high initiative? Sure. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, if you know the product, you're skilled in data, and heck, if it's a data product, absolutely. I see no reason why not. So yeah, I think that's a simple answer to that one. Okay, Ryan, how much overlap do you see between product management and program management? It seems like product is more focused on solving customer problems. That's exactly right. So this is where we'll wrap up for today in terms of questions. Product management is absolutely focused on the strategy and road mapping for getting their products delivered to effectively solve customer problems. Program management is typically a higher level part of the organization. And I don't mean higher level in terms of seniority. I mean, they're overseeing sort of the organization at large to ensure that initiatives are being managed effectively. So typically project management will report into program management, and their focus is less on, strategically building out the right things and more on saying, are we organizing and coordinating and building effectively and on time and on budget, right? Those sorts of things. So of course, super important to product, but a complementary role to product. Okay. It was such a pleasure to see all of you. I hope to connect with you throughout the rest of the week. I hope you catch the keynote that's happening a little bit later today. I will be there for sure. If you want to connect with me, you know where to find me on LinkedIn. I hope to see all of you soon, and thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me. I will see you later. Bye, everybody.